Lance Fulton. I'm from Southwest Kansas, cattle guy in beef country. So I've got partners. We run 900 head of cattle, and I consulted to four different cattle feedlots, about 125,000 head, and then about 8 different farm families I work with. I don't know if you guys know the major difference between the cattle feedlot and your industry, the hog industry. We sell water, and that's how we make money. We're basically a motel. Have customers, bring them in, feed them, send them away, keep it full, and sell water. So
that's the only thing you provide with water.
To a large degree.
Housing.
This is one of two KPIs, key performance indicators, that are used to run those feedlots. This is about all the information the manager needs to know what's going on to make decisions. There's obviously death loss, medicating, taking care of the cattle, taking care of the customers, cost of gain, what are the genetics of the cattle, what are the buy-in price, all that kind of stuff. Because the other major difference between cattle feedlots and the hog industry is the major asset of a cattle feedlot is a loan that's been given to its customers. So 125,000 head, as of this morning, had $72 million loaned out to customers.
Oh,
Had cattle worth about $82 million. Last week they were worth $82 million.
Before the Tyson.
Yeah, this week they were worth not quite that much. The point is with this, is if you can in your business get to the key drivers, that information is right there for you every morning. So none of that is input. It all comes in from other systems. It's directly loaded in. The mill tells us what the grain moisture is we're shipping out into out to the bunks. The average yard feed intake comes straight out of the mill. This is all on a per head basis. The incoming grain moisture, that is first in, first out. I'll just call it a spreadsheet that shows the most recent corn purchases that are still sitting in the bins, and the price we paid for those bushels comes from that same spreadsheet. For the most part, most feedlots shoot for 50 cents per head per day for a gross margin, not a net, a gross. So yardage, yardage is the vacancy rate. You pay 5 cents a head a day. You just do. Moisture appreciation, that is water. 9.5 cents per head per day, based on those numbers, is just selling water. Vet and beds ends up being about 3 cents per head per day when you get all through it. Then the calculator says 32.3 cents per head per day of corn markup. That comes to $25.84 a ton. In that particular lot, we were at $26 a ton markup. So actually making 50.2 cents per head per day gross. The other thing, the only other one to really look at is every day the operating expenses download, and it gives a operating expense per head per day. We want that at 35 cents or less. And that
Your target is the 15 cent.
15 cents per head per day. What feedlot managers, it takes a while to figure out is you change that 407 to 375, and now we're only getting 49.4. we're buying it in for less, but we're making less because we are. Obviously, for our customers' sake, that's a good thing. Usually, this is 24%. Actually, 0.24. Sorry, I'm wrong. Now we need to mark up at 25.16. So every day, every morning, and actually every time a corn truck crosses the scale, that gets updated. It doesn't change much, but it gets updated. The moisture changes, the price changes, particularly if we get on a different contract. Every business has key performance indicators. Every business has drivers. Try and find them. Because if you can do this, it's not that simple to run a cattle feedlot, but it's simple to know if you're making money. And it's simple to know it all the time.
How is this determined that this is the right driver? Just kind of history.
Yeah, I mean, when you get down to it, what you're selling is corn.
And if you can make some margin on that corn?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the driver because every number up there fits somewhere in the income and expense that matters. And it is also the one place all these numbers come and tell me what's my markup based on what I want to hit in the end. In the end, that's all we're trying to do is, I want 50 cents a head a day gross. What's my markup?
And 50 cents, that's locked in with the customer for,
Nope.
what is it?
I've got lots that are doing this one. Okay, makes for 6. Yeah. They're marking up $38. So why can they get away with that? History with customer, long-term relationships, better genetics of cattle. They only allow better genetics of cattle, so they get the cattle sold on the grid, which gets an extra $70 a head when they're marketed, things like that. So it's not locked in. It's what the owners decide they're after, and it's what the market will bear. Right now, the market will bear 50 cents a head just on kind of a commodity basis. Then your job as a manager is to keep your operating expenses at 35 cents a head or less.
In that case, that's on the cost of maintaining the yard and all the equipment.
It's everything that's not out of the ordinary. It is replacement cost on depreciation, but there's actually not this feed yard, the first one, not the 66 cents, the 50 cents. They had a 15-inch rain overnight earlier this spring, and their lagoons got damaged pretty seriously. I'm not counting that as an operating expense. You know, it took them, I don't know, $75,000 to deal with it. So those kinds of things aren't in there, but your basic everyday activities are. Part of the reason for starting there is I'd like to start at the end, as you've pointed out. None of you are operating a simple business, but you need a simple way to manage it. You need to find simple ways to manage it. For feedlots, this is it. And
Where'd you get that?
I made that. Yeah. With working with the nutritionist, we put that together. Then there's a company called Micro that handles the medicines and micronutrients out in the lot, and they have the software at the scale at the mill. So worked with them to get the downloads.
So you're showing a spreadsheet here. Are these just data points? You got some math going on here?
There's math going on, but the input comes in wirelessly. I don't manually enter any of that.
This?
What's that?
You just have some kind of system that operates.
Yeah, system that populates it. The only thing we would mess with is desired margin per head per day. That's it. Everything else just shows up. Okay, so simple automated processes that are easy to read and understand, that tell you what's going on in your business. Granted, it's not a complete picture, but on a day-to-day basis, with that key performance indicator and the other one, I know 15 cents a head a day. The only other thing you have to worry about is head count. So this lot typically has 19,500 head in it. Your operating expenses per head are going to start creeping up if your head count goes down.
You can't keep the hotel full.
If you can't keep the hotel full, your cost per head on the operating expenses will creep up. Whereas this one won't. Gross margin per head per day, that's just feeding them.
And then at the lake, we're gonna see the lake.
So I will try to move fast. I think you would agree with this, and he would agree with this. Way too much information coming at you from everywhere. Nutritionist, crop consultant, dad, sister, in-law, neighbor, peer, banker, everybody's throwing information at you. You need ways to sort through it and get to what matters. And need to find the thing that's important in your business that makes all the difference. So I don't know how many of you guys heard about this. I've talked about it some. A week ago, last Friday, a major beef packing plant caught fire in Garden City, Kansas, which is where I'm from. That plant produces 30,000 head a week. It's 5% of the nation's production. 600,000 head a week, more or less, is the amount of beef cattle that get processed. So several things happened. Sunday morning, got a call. 4 different bankers. Your collateral value just dropped 20%. Where do you stand with your customers? How quick is your business ready to give that answer?
Sunday morning?
Sunday morning.
For 3 grand.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, 20% on 76 million.
Yeah.
They wanted to know right then and there. And they wanted to know if those customers were hedged, if they had protected themselves. We don't get to participate in the hedge. They get to keep the hedge gain, but it's more likely the customer pays you back if he's hedged and protected his loss and not suffered that risk. So that's a phone call we got. 100 customers, give or take, between 125,000 head and hard to say. I don't know how many lots. We had that information set up, so all we had to do was change collateral. We only had to change price value on their weights, and it just flowed out. A lot of places had to rebuild their entire schedule, and they weren't able to give them the answer. So there's information that actually matters, and it matters to more than your business. It matters to your lender. How quick can you access it? How quick can you give it to them? And do you have the processes in place to do it and do it rapidly? Then there's information that has nothing to do with finances. Instead of moving, we had 6,000 head going into Finney County, feed packers. So do you have enough information to find trucks to haul them 500 miles instead of 50 miles? How are you going to deal with all those customers that have those 6,000 head and tell them their cell just fell apart? There's a lot of stuff you got to be prepared to deal with when that's a big event. It doesn't happen all the time. It's a big event. But your information can be ready to deal with it. And I don't know if this is how it happens in the hog world. So weekly slaughter in the U.S. is 600,000 head. 30,000 head went offline. Anybody know how many head they slaughtered that week? 609,000 head. The packers had that information. They were ready to jump. They added shifts. They went an extra day. They bought cheap and they sold high.
You think they made money on it?
They went from $300 a head gross to about $500. Yeah.
And now they're not buying cattle anymore because they're not making enough.
A lot of cattlemen aren't selling right at the moment. Yeah, about a 60% increase in their gross. Is what happened. And they were ready to jump. They were all over that.
It's an opportunity.
Yes. I want the slide show saying. Understand your position and how your lender sees your operation. This is FBS stuff. This is Farm Financial Standards Council stuff. Liquidity, solvency, profitability, repayment capacity, efficiency, management accounting. You guys get a good presentation on management accounting. I like the people I work with to know their numbers and why their numbers are important at least as much as the lender thinks so. Whether it's working capital as a percentage of expenses or revenue, or if it's liquidity per head, or if it's, in our world, $125 equity per animal on the lot. Know those things, or not necessarily know them, understand them. And the more important point is know what changes them, know what affects them, know how to change them. That's one of the problems with information overload. Somebody comes and says to you, you got to have a current ratio of 1.2. Okay, mine's 1.1. What do I do? What's the right answer? Yeah, I don't. That's something people don't. The how-to isn't ever sold with the information. How do you make that change? Howard's a big believer in this, and so am I. Don't look back. Don't regret decisions. What happened last week doesn't really matter today. You got to be looking forward. You got to. Your past matters in terms of what are you trending, where have you been going, but where you want to go now is what matters. And what are you going to do to get there? Whether it's head count, another alley, a new feed mill, partnerships, relationships, better packer, better buyer, better customers. All those things matter. But a focus on the past won't get you where you want to be. You got to think about where you're going. So and that's a challenge. Lots of people don't like challenges, but I think most guys in this room probably are fine with it. I do think the bottom part, second half of that statement makes sense. Overcoming challenges, that is the meaningful part of life. Don't play status quo. Don't just live day by day the same way. Take up the challenge and make life better for yourself and for those around you. I'm just kidding. Okay. I have this theory that I try to live by. It's what do you want to accomplish? Why do you want to accomplish it? When are you going to accomplish it? And then you can bother with how you're going to accomplish it. The reason for that is if you don't know why you're trying to accomplish something, the first time a challenge comes up, the first time something gets in your road, the first time it gets difficult, you'll stop. You won't get it done. That's just human nature. And I've done it 100 times myself. So, my what, I'll just skip to it. Or I won't. For me, what I want to accomplish is process automation. I want that out in the field. I want that out in the feedlot. I want that in the office. Touch a data point once, see a transaction once, never look for an error through 10,000 lines of data. Everything connected together. It's almost doable today. Software talks to each other. You can do exports. You can use, instead of using Excel as your document, use Excel as your middleman to get to the next piece of software that can crunch the numbers for you. Process automation and the ability to know, this is where this all goes wrong. The ability to know the input, the initial input, is accurate and timely. And that you can hold somebody accountable to that. I don't know about your guys' world, feedlot world. We work with a lot of help that's not two languages and their first language is in English. And they come from a world where, well, that lot's going out, but we got one junk head, so we're going to pull it out and fill it with another one. You got to tell me which customer that other head came from, or things go wrong. You've got to have things in place to hold people accountable for that. Those are processes that the more things can be automated, the more you don't rely on handwritten notes, the more you don't rely on dad to write down that he planted 300 acres and what variety did he use, the better you are. The more information you'll get, as much as possible, and again, it's getting there in this world. Automated, wireless, you don't touch it, nobody touches it, it just happens. There's this word that goes around. I haven't heard it for a while. Holistic thinking. What that is in the world is not getting lost, not missing the forest because you're stuck on a tree. So, I recently was working with one of the accountants at a feedlot, and this feedlot uses a clearing account, and it was off, I don't remember, I think it was $86 in January. And literally spent 2 days trying to find that $86. Okay. $75 million in customer loans, who cares, right? It's understanding what's important and what isn't important. That's holistic thinking. What's important, focus on it, deal with it. What isn't important, stay away from it. Don't get caught up in those crazy things like an $86 power clearing account issue. This is the one that doesn't exist. Predictive analytics. It's a fancy term. What it means is, can I take the information I have today, all the information I have today, and predict where I'm at in 6 months and 18 months? And every time my incoming information changes, all of that changes. Can I know 18 months from now what my current ratio is, what my solvency is, all of those things based on a singular change every day? These are things that aren't that hard to, they take work, right? But they aren't that hard. Because I changed this presentation like a dozen times. I did this kind of last night, so it's not good. But I use this kind of thing on the farms. Those fertilizer costs, chemical costs, seed costs, fuel costs, crop insurance, in my world, water, irrigation costs. That's data you can get out of FBS. And every time it changes in FBS, it can upload and be exported here and change these numbers. What you're responsible as a producer to do is how many acres of what, and what you think the yield will be, what you think the price will be. And as you price it in, change price. There's ways to automate that too on a spreadsheet. This information ought to, without any input from you, use this information. You got to design it. But by putting those initial points in, the assumptions, boom, you got your next 12 months. I believe in what's called a rolling budget. So what I do is in August, we'll drop August, and they'll have a new cash flow projection from September through the next August. And always move it forward 1 month. That way, when it gets to December, or actually January, we don't have to do any work for the banker. Cash flow projection's already done. Balance sheet's already done. This thing's designed to automatically update the balance sheet. And that will include purchases of land, purchases of equipment, depreciation, all of that. It just flows in. The important part is it's telling you that it's predicting the future for you. And it's predicting, I don't have any analytics up there. I didn't do any of the KPIs you might do for your business. I didn't put in current ratios, liquidity, solvency, all that stuff. It's in the real one back home. Every time something changes, everything changes. So you know where you're at and you know where you think you're going.
You pull the data from FBS?
That's where you get the data from. Every month, you see this one that says CFA?
Yeah.
You would pull the month's data from FBS right in there.
And you designed this, or is this available? Or?
It's something I've designed. Yeah, it's not out there on the web.
But would you be willing to share the empty version, or?
We can make something work, yeah. Yes. From your presentation, Power BI, that took effort, right? Now that it's set up, not that much effort.
It should be automated.
Right. It's the same thing with these things. Once it's set up, it just works. And yeah, you can use exporting functions from one software to another. That's how you make it happen. So from an accounting perspective, and from an office perspective, my desire is systems and processes that hold people accountable to timely, accurate information. Finding the key drivers for business and helping the owners understand what's going on. Yes, sir.
How about running what ifs with this?
It's exactly what you do with it. Absolutely. Yes.
How often? How many times a day?
As often as you feel like it. As often as you feel like it. Yeah, it's designed to, I would save your main one, then on do a what if for whatever you want. Change the price, change the yield, change a cost. It's excellent for, I want to add 200 acres of rented ground. What am I going to grow on it? The only thing you might have to think about on that is, will it take another guy? Will it take more equipment? You got to build that into the what if, but other than that, enter in those changes. You got 18 months of data, or at least predicted data. I'm here to tell you, Finney County Fire, you can't see 2 days ahead. I get that. But you can see as far ahead as you can at least glimpse at what is possible 18 months out.
Recognize it when you see it.
Yep. And it's really, I'm going to refer back to the Packers in the beef industry. Man, were they ready to leap on an opportunity. I mean, it was scary how fast they did that. Just freaking scary. We thought we'd have to find where to take loads. They were calling us, bring us some cattle, bring us some cattle. That's why we're not selling any this week. But regardless, well, everybody knows that. At some point you have to sell, right? But they knew what that catastrophe in Finney County feeders meant. And they were ready. Have your numbers in the same shape. You never know what piece of ground might come up or
How many fires
entire
will they set?
business. Huh?
How many fires will they set now?
You know what they told us? They'll be back up and running in 1 month to 12 months.
They're probably right.
They're probably right. Yes. I'm guessing April-ish. Any questions? Before I finish up, for those of us who are left, I think we should give a hand to Norman and FBS for having the conference and all the speakers.
And thank you, Lance, for taking the
Graveyard.
yeah.
Third shift's the winner. That's all right.
Thank you. Very good finish to the conference.